Hello, everyone. You're watching SK Live. I'm your host, Indranil Basu. Today we have Mr. Parvin Dabas with us, the great Bollywood actor. Sir, how are you?
Great. I'm doing great on this Sunday. And thank you so much, Indranil, for having me on the show on Sportskeeda. Thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure. Someone who's an actor by profession has such a strong connect with the sport, and the connect with fitness, which is so important in life. At the time when it's testing times, everyone is struggling with so much of negativity, and when you see someone promoting fitness in this kind of way, whatever sport, so it's a great sight. Someone you see so much of how are you managing in last 4 months or so? It's been terrible for everyone.
Well, I always believe when life gives you lemons, make lemonades. That has been my motto throughout my life. So I have actually used the lockdown to try and get back into peak shape fitness. My fitness in the last 2-3 years, I've been pretty busy, had some injuries, has been up and down. But I've used this, to get back into peak fitness. I've lost about 7 to 8 kgs already during the lockdown, and it's not just about losing weight; it's about, of course, overall fitness. So I've lost about 7-8 kgs. I plan on losing another 2-3 to get into absolute, the fitness where I want to be. So I have used that time to focus on myself, on my body and what I want to do also, going forward. So it's been, a time of reassessment as well in a lot of things. But of course, has tried to do what one can do. It's tough times for the whole country. One cannot just think about oneself, but one needs to think about, what one can do for everyone around you as well.
Absolutely. You follow sports news off and on?
I do. I do. As you know, we run a couple of sports sites or sell, so we are into sports. Uh, Now, as far as, of course, India sports, goes around cricket, and we are, I think the first person you're talking to after Dhoni retired is me. So I just want to say thank you
Yes.
to Dhoni and to Suresh Raina, both of them, for the service they have given to Indian sports and cricket. They have been fantastic. Such a big fan of Dhoni. I share the birth month and sun sign with him. So I would like star sign with him. So I'd like to pretend to know a little about, because Cancerians can be very complex people, and they can be taken the wrong way. And Dhoni, Captain Cool, of course, Raina, but he has been so amazing in what he has given back to the sport. And it's that kind of passion. When you see that kind of passion, it's what drives you also to want to do something and give back to Indian sport. So absolutely fantastic. There are three guys who I really follow and love in Indian cricket. It's Dhoni, Ganguly, who's my first love in Indian cricket, and Virat Kohli. Also because all three of them are aggressive in their own way. Ganguly and Kohli are very openly aggressive, whereas Dhoni I would call passive aggressive.
Yeah, you must have met Dhoni a few times and all that.
I haven't actually. We've been in parties, but I've not met him. I have met Ganguly though, and Mr. Ganguly, and he's been was an absolute pleasure.
There's a lot of, as I talked about, a lot of negativity happening everywhere. It's and in the Bollywood, Dhoni, that movie happened. Sushant Singh Rajput was there, and the controversy which is followed after his death. So, and we expected Dhoni to speak. He didn't speak at all. Only time he spoke two lines that he's going to, consider me as a retired person. So, what are your thoughts when you see such celebrities not coming out, because that movie was made in his name after all? So, what are your thoughts exactly?
I want to say one thing. We all want justice for everyone. In our country, I would say there are a lot of times, justice has been served absolutely stupendously well. We've got a great court system, which is weighed down, of course, by the amount of cases. And I think they are doing a lot to try and remove the amount of cases. Now, I have to say that who would not want justice for someone, especially someone in the public eye? Everybody wants, like they say, it's not just important for justice to be done, but seen to be done as well. So it's very important that everyone see that justice is done properly, so that India's faith in the judicial system and its in institutions remains. Having said that, if you notice, like you said, I try not to get into a lot of these debates back and forth and name calling, because a lot of times I don't feel it solves a purpose, especially with a lot of the other things. And there are debates and people are calling each other names. It gets into a lot of negativity a lot of times. So I always feel that putting out a positive message in what one can do, well, is very important. Because nowadays, even if you don't say something that's taken in a negative way, आपने ये नहीं बोला तो इसका मतलब आप नहीं चाहते, और आपने उसके बारे में बोला तो ये नहीं बोला. So there's a lot of things that people jump on you for. So I have to say that one tries to do, even during these times, positive steps, put out positive actions, and take it from there.
They say breaking news is the biggest bane right now in our modern society. Everyone is.
But I very honestly, I don't blame journalists for that, because it's, as people, we are interested. We're the ones consuming it. So we're the ones consuming it, and we're the ones feeding off of it. As human beings, we have an interest in breaking news and new thing and what is happening. So that is part of how we are as humans, and as a society. People feed it even more. Of course, it's a creature which is fed and becomes bigger. Unfortunately, because nowadays one sees it being misused as well. But I would say people are very smart. As soon as they smell that something is getting out of hand by anybody, I think they start to tune off, and I think that keeps the system in check, I would say.
Absolutely. Mr. Saif Ali Khan came on our show earlier, a few days ago, and he said a lovely thing. He said that, it's only the positivity which stays, negativity which just phases away with time. So
absolutely, and great thing he said, because you don't forget you forget the bad things that everybody's saying and this and that, but the good things, like people from the industry like Sonu Sood and Manish Mundra, who have actually gone out and done something for society during these trying times, or anybody else. I don't want to think just there are countless doctors, there are countless soldiers who are out there doing and serving the country, selflessly. The police people, so many police people have lost their lives in this fight. These people really deserve, the spotlight and all of our respect. So they are out there, serving us selflessly. So they deserve our respect, and they are the ones which I feel, who will be remembered. All of these comments on Twitter and all of these social media, nobody will remember the negative comments. So what I would say is, keep that in mind, like you rightly said. Keep that in mind, that the good things, the positive things that you leave behind in life are the ones that will stay.
Someone rightly said that it's the winners are always on the sports pages, but the losers are on the front pages. And you have to be a positive person to be a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be a positive person, not just to be a winner, but to see that the glass is half full.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been quite a sports, I can use that word, called freak. You love your, adventure sport, like scuba diving and things like that, taekwondo and, martial arts. Tell us about how it all started. You're, of course, a Hansraj student.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a Hansraj student. I'm from modern school as well. I also grew up in some years I spent in Toronto. I've lived for some years in New York. I've been around, but Delhi, of course, is where, at heart, Delhi boy. And of course, I've lived in Mumbai for a long time. I'm a Mumbai boy, Maharashtra boy. So I have lived around. I would say, the sports actually started in when we were in Toronto. My parents put me into a taekwondo school. Like you rightly
Okay.
mentioned, me and a cousin, and we used to go. It was a South Korean taekwondo self-defense school, and it was very tough. The teachers were very tough, and a lot of times we used to skip it. And if we ever arrived home early and our parents found out the pitai bhi hoti thi, so next day we were back there. But that's where my love for martial arts started. And I've done kickboxing. I still go for camps sometimes to Thailand. I love boxing. I still do boxing with my trainer Tridev Pandey. Amazing. And I love that feeling of hitting the pad and even getting hit. I'm not saying I'm a great I've always been a wannabe sportsman, but that feeling of sparring and competition, I just love that, being able to the back and forth. It's because it's mental as much as physical. If you look at any game, it's a mental game, it's a physical game. It's setting some, so that whole thing of whether it's kickboxing, boxing, MMA, of course, as I've been involved in mixed martial
Yes.
arts
Yes.
for
Yes.
quite a few years now. So I have a very strong love for mixed martial arts. I have the MMA India show, so a love for that. So all of these things, I've done a lot of crazy things as well. I love cycling as well. I've cycled from Manali to Leh with a group, which was one of the toughest things I've done. Like you
Wow.
said, I scuba dived.
It's
I've
it's more
scuba dived with,
it's
sorry.
more it's more than 500 kilometers of cycling then.
It is. It's about 500 kilometers, but it's not the distance which is a problem. It's the mountains. You're climbing mountains in the Himalayas on a cycle, and the first day you tell yourself, "What the hell am I doing?" But you keep going. And now, of course, as you know, I've also set up the Pro Panja League, which is
Yes.
my first promotion, sports
Yeah.
promotion. I've been
Yeah.
involved in all other
Yeah.
facets, but I love aggressive sports. Even as a kid, I played various things. I played basketball. Also, I was in the school and college team. As kids, we used to do Panja a lot. Which is where the love of Panja and arm wrestling came. And I come from a Jat family, so I was surrounded by a lot of Jats in Delhi. तो वो एक थोड़ा सा जो attitude और just गुस्सा, even though I was a pretty shant Jat, as far as Jats go, they used to call me like, ये शांत वाला पढ़ा लिखो, तो थोड़ा वो है. But all my cousins around me, I still remember a lot of them used to come and visit me in Hansraj. And if they saw any guy who was even, a little big build, वो सबसे पहले बोलते थे पंजा लड़ाएगा क्या? So their way of communicating with somebody
Yeah.
was, getting down and doing panja and seeing who they won, and then, being friends with them. So I've grown around with a lot of different influences, but sports has always been a very, very strong influence of mine, as you can see.
How old were you when you started in Toronto? Those taekwondo classes.
I would say I was about 6, 7. I
Oh
was
wow.
about 6, 7, yeah. So I got a couple of. I didn't go very far in taekwondo. We moved back, and there were not many. When we moved back, there were not many taekwondo schools in Delhi at that time. So I was not able to carry it on. But I did do afterwards. Once I moved to Mumbai, I was able to start kickboxing and boxing. So, but those beginning years of like I said, taekwondo, and with I still remember my South Korean teacher because he was a really tough taskmaster. If you played around or if you came late or anything, he used to make you do push-ups. And as a 6, 7 year old, doing push-ups is not easy. So
Yeah.
it stays embedded in your head.
But how come you're such a tough guy? Surely because the kind of sport you endorsed in your life from childhood days, you never played that angry young man role in on silver screen.
Yeah, well, there was just one scene in Khosla which brought out that angry young man in me. And I remember after that scene, when his father Anupam Kher is taken to put into jail, and he's trying to get him out. And I have this scene with the cop where I just lose it. So after that scene, I remember Mr. Anupam Kher saying कि आपका तो अंदर का अमिताभ बच्चन जाग गया इस scene में. So but it's really funny that I've played these guys who are a little more not everywhere, of course. I've done various roles, but sometimes I would say I'm much more aggressive than is portrayed sometimes on screen. So sometimes people taken aback by my true personality. I've calmed down a bit, but before I used to be a little more, so aggressive than people thought I would be, because they, a lot of times people feel what they see you on screen, that's how you are. But it's not, that's not how it is, because you're playing a character, so you're acting, and that's how, and we all have different sides to us. We have aggressive sides, we have, peaceful sides. So it depends on how the character is and how you mold it. But aggressive sports, has always been a passion of mine.
You've really earned a good name as for playing character roles. But tell me something, as an actor, which one is tougher? Is it playing the comical role, or is it like the aggressive young man? Because a lot of people keep telling me, people who watch cinema very religiously, they keep telling me that if you can play that man, that aggressive face, if you can put it out very well, you are supposed to be a good actor. Is it like that, or is it like
Well, yeah,
what?
that the audience likes that, and that's a very typical, thing that people think about. I've not thought about that. I was very lucky that very early in my career, I had two cult films which kind of changed, the way people looked at Indian cinema. Monsoon Wedding and Khosla Ghosla were two films which, were path breakers. They were cult films. Films like that were not made, and they've always been films that people hold up as examples.
Yeah,
Monsoon Wedding was a big success, not just in India but abroad, internationally.
absolutely.
And Khosla, of course, is still very widely followed on Netflix and every other platform on TV. It still has huge, but it sold for a huge amount on satellite even now, and people are still surprised by the amount of success it still has. So I was very lucky early on that I did films which were of a slightly different bent of mine. So I have played different characters. I would say one of my favorite characters. I love doing comedy, and not many people know this about me, because I've done a lot of theater and I used to love doing comic theater. But one of my favorite roles was in a film called Ragini MMS Part 2,
Okay.
where I played, let's say, a horny director, who cast Sunny Leone in his film. It was a film within a film.
Yeah.
So that role had a lot of comic elements, and I went quietly into the couple of theaters to see how people were taking to it, and people just loved it. They loved the lines, they loved everything. My friends loved the film, of course, for different reasons, because Sunny Leone was, opposite me in that film, so that's a different reason that they loved the film. But acting wise, I really liked that film, and of course, the recent series that I just did, Hostages, which is on Hotstar, that was a great experience as well, because it's a new type of content which is being made now.
We look for people who come and show their interest in the big guns, like you are supporting the the pro league, which
Yeah.
pro league which you're doing. But there is a notion that the Bollywood stars generally get, you have a background, of course, you played all kinds of sports, but they get into sports to be in the limelight. There is a notion in amongst a lot of people. When Shah Rukh Khan bought KKR, they said, he wants to be in the limelight. That's why he's there. But he has a huge passion for the game. Saif Ali Khan, sir, and then yesterday I was talking to Amol Palekar, sir. Look at the passion. He spent his own money from his own pocket, went all the way to England to see 2019 World Cup. So that kind of passion people have. When people talk like that, you must have heard that you want to be in the limelight. That's why you're coming in the pro Panja league. But what do you tell yourself? Do you laugh at yourself? Is it what guys, these guys?
Yeah, see, I have been in sports for a long time, so what people say doesn't matter. Though I do understand why people say that, because it is up to the individual. I don't think a general statement is correct. I think there are people who are probably in that, so that the camera is on them when they're yelling in the stands in the in different leagues. So there is that side of it. But I would say, like you rightly said, Mr. Shah Rukh Khan is one of the smartest business minds out there, and he's made a lot of he's really built a big brand, with
Yeah,
KKR and now his other investments. So I don't think he needed the publicity. He didn't need to come into and buy a team for the publicity. So I
yeah,
think it would be a really smart business decision. And all I can say is I cannot talk about other people's motives, but my motive has always been to promote this sport, and I've always had a very high respect for athletes. and there is a way that I see sports should be run. And one of the reasons of starting this is to put my vision out there of how I feel a sports league should be run, which is respect for the athletes first and foremost. Because a lot of times one sees and one is still seeing, that is not at the center of things a lot of times. Of course, every sports league is still a business. You need to, make money. Nobody can run a business by losing money. But I feel respect for the athletes and putting them forward should be at the center of everything you do. Which is why the first year that we're doing Pro Panja League, we've not rushed into anything, but we are first building up the athletes in it. We had a very successful soft launch in Delhi on Feb 29th, where we were very lucky to have the sports minister, Mr. Kiran Rijiju, do the launch. We were very lucky to have Mr. Vijender Singh, India's boxing icon, come and be the chief guest. So, it was a platform. We were able to give the arm wrestlers a platform which none of them had ever seen. And we really made sure a lot of athletes, they came and they weren't able to move when they saw the stage and the platform because they had never seen anything like it. A lot of them said afterwards, we were awestruck because we felt like we were taking part in the Asian Games or the Commonwealth Games. So for me, the heart of it is respect for the athletes, making sure that they're also.
I think there's some internet issue again cropping up. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? The thing has frozen. We are talking to Mr. Parvin Dabas. He's a famous Bollywood actor. We just lost him. He's the promoter of the Pro Panja League, which is
I'm back.
Is,
so can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, I was your CV again. He's a promoter of Pro Panja League and all that. Whatever. Yeah, coming to that point. Yeah.
So basically,
can you hear me? I think we are breaking up a little.
Respect is at the center of it.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah, you're breaking up a little.
Okay.
I think there's some. Are you doing through your phone or to your iPad or a laptop? There are times when you encounter this problem and an SMS or a text message would come.
Okay, here I am again. It stays this time.
Yes.
So
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So like I was saying, respect for the athletes and putting them front and center of the game, developing them as stars, and giving them the education of how to market themselves, how to, because it's not just about your sporting talent. Nowadays, sports is about marketing as well, and all of those things. So we are literally building this league from the ground up and making sure it is successful in the long run.
Why Panja League? I mean, why not a taekwondo or a kickboxing league? I mean, why Panja League?
Well, I'll be very frank with you. There's two things there. One, of course, is I've always loved Panja and arm wrestling from the time I was small. Like I told you, Delhi was very Panja friendly. Everybody around me was doing it, and also there are already a couple of MMA promotions out there. But also, I'm not sure. There are a couple of promotions which do well here, like UFC, but I'm not sure how much MMA, mixed martial arts, will grow. But it'll still take some time to grow it because it's a violent sport, and I think there's a little more marketing that is necessary to do to the Indian public, because as families, we are not that great at blood and gore, which is, I'm not saying mixed martial arts is a bloody, it is a violent sport, people hitting each other, but there's still some marketing which has to be done. But Panja is a sport which everybody really understands, so there is a huge love, though mixed martial arts is a much more complex game. There's a lot more involved in it, whereas Panja seemingly is more simple. It's two guys at a table trying to put their hands down. But there are a lot of techniques involved, which is what we're educating the public about right now. There's a lot of stuff. There's different ways, of putting the opponent's hand down. There's a lot of rules, so people are still being educated about that. So the interesting thing about Panja is it's an aggressive game, but it's not violent. It has the smell of violence and aggression, but it's not. You don't see somebody coming out with blood and gore, which
Yeah.
is in MMA you do have a lot of blood and gore. Like today there was UFC 252, and Daniel Cormier came out of it with one eye shut. Sean O'Malley, broke either his knee or ankle. So there is a lot of injuries which happen there, which is not so much for Panja. So I do feel Panja is it has the aggression that people want, but it's still a violent, but if I can call it family friendly, it's still a family friendly sport while being a test of strength.
In fact, I mean, it's tough to find someone who never had a Panja fight with someone coming.
Absolutely.
As a child, we all had that, uncles or family members, friends coming over. So are you growing up? You're growing up well. That was a testimony to how much strength you are gaining as a youngster. So looking at that sentiment, do you think it'll really catch up in India, this sport?
Yeah, absolutely. See, you hit the you hit the ball on the head or whatever the phrase is. You hit it
Yeah.
on his head. You really said it right. That everybody knows about Panja. It's not a sport that needs to be introduced to people. It's a sport that's being reintroduced to people. It's basically where kabaddi was, before the kabaddi league started, where everybody knew that listen, there is a sport called kabaddi. It's an Indian sport, and the only thing is they didn't know who the players were. And there's a lot of other rules which came into play, but they knew the sport. So the same way, Panja is at an even bigger advantage because it's not just an Indian sport, but it's an international sport. It's arm wrestling, which is played internationally, but in the country, we know it as Panja, and everybody knows it. They just are not right now so well versed with who are they don't know so much who are the people who are the stars of it, and that's what we're doing now. We are putting all the fighters, all these weight categories, all these athletes, both male and female, out there, so people will be educated about that within a year or two.
Your wife Preeti ma'am is saying, you're looking good.
Oh, thank you. That's a big compliment coming from her because she rarely says that.
No,
So
but she's been quite a support, in and whatever promotions you've done, she's always there. She was right behind you, like a rock solid.
absolutely.
I mean, behind every man there is a successful man. There's a woman, and she's been.
Absolutely. I have to say we're a team, and she handles a lot of it, especially dealing with people. And she's a lot better. Let's just say dealing with people than I am. She knows how to handle people. She knows how to handle players and this and that and talk. I'm somebody, unfortunately, who loses my cool and patience a little quicker. you know, so so I leave that part to her, and I look at the creative and the marketing side. But so she's somebody who actually does a lot of the relationship building and meeting and all of the much more in the important stuff. So I would really call it really a team effort where we know what we are good at, and we make sure that we do our thing, and the other person is doing their thing.
So while doing business together as a couple, a very successful couple, do you have a Panja fight once in a while?
Oh, never, never. See, अपनी बेइज्जती भी नहीं करवानी, लेकिन ऐसा भी नहीं करना कि रात को खाना ना मिले. You know what I mean? So like I said,
You can't order from outside right now.
yeah, exactly. There's only so much one can order from outside. So let's just say we don't go into that zone that much.
Absolutely. And talking about food, so what is the right kind of food to get all the strength on your Panja, on your wrist, on your forearm? What's the kind
I,
of
I,
diet?
I would say natural. Stay natural. That's the most important thing, which we nowadays are forgetting. Especially with our kids, because they're the next generation. It's so easy to give them a packet, and to make them quiet. Give them a packet. Give them something to eat, and they're quiet. The same thing with us. It's become so instant. We're fed all these packaged foods and this and that. I think, as Indians, we've been very lucky growing up. We've had a very close connect with nature, with foods actually growing in our gardens and coming up. So I remember as a kid also, हमारे गांव से, मूली आती थी, वो आता था, टमाटर आते थे, so that thing of homegrown food, I think one needs to get back to it now. And I think we are, even in the cities, you're finding this whole thing of organic and everything. So I think we need to get away from packaged foods. We need to get back to natural eating. Just don't eat anything which comes out of a box or a packet and you'll be fine. Stay away from processed sugars. It's really not that complicated. We make it complicated in our head. But just don't once you're full, stop eating, eat slowly, and don't eat packaged foods. It's as simple. It can be as simple as that. That's a great beginning, I would say, to start with.
And there are more inputs coming from Preeti ma'am. You're supposed to say more good things so that you get a good, delicious Sunday lunch.
Okay.
You're supposed to say good.
I have to say, वो नहीं होती तो मैं नहीं होता. कुछ नहीं.
No, really. Food is such an important, integral part of our development, and sort of suffering we are seeing, kind of, all our disease, all our miseries happen through food and water we drink. So you have to be very careful with that. Coming to the strength bit of the Panja, a lot of Indians, like I have a very good shoulder. I used to call myself as a child, my shoulders are like boulders. But being a Bengali, we always had a weak wrist. I don't know what's with this Bengali culture. They never had that long, they have a good feet, but they don't have a good forearm and a wrist. So what are the kind of exercises or what kind of drills one has to do to really, I want to do a Panja, but anyone will beat me. A youngster will beat me and I won't feel nice about him. I want to
we'll
beat him
start
back.
training you. Don't worry. The Pro Panja League will start training you so that you win your next Panja fight.
No, but what is this? I mean, how the energy happens? I mean, is there any technique to it?
There's two things. There is a technique to it. There is. It is all about technique and, of course, strength as well. And the two have to go hand in hand. First of all, there's strength training, right? Which is overall, you're doing exercises to overall build, your strength. But then there is very specific things to build, the hand strength, the wrist strength, and the forearm strength, which is the main exercises, and of course the shoulder as well, because the shoulder does play into it as well. And these are very specific exercises. There are specific machines as well, which has built some pulley machines, which are for, to develop that forearm strength, and you keep, putting up the resistance. And as a kid, if you saw, I don't know, one of the ways we got into Panja as a kid, if you ever saw the Sylvester Stallone movie,
yes, 87 movie.
What was it?
Over the top.
Over the top. So you remember all the forearm exercises, and even the, barbell ke saath wo ulte, for the forearm. And what we used to do as kids, growing up, is wo ek bamboo ke through ghatta banate the. We used to make a hole, put a rope through it, tie it on the top, and put either weights or like a brick at the bottom. And we used to roll it like this. So, that used to involve the fingers, it used to involve the wrists, and it used to involve the forearms as well. And even now, that's one of the best, desi exercises, to build that hand and forearm and wrist strength is, you roll it like this, the weight, and you just you keep increasing the weight. So that is really desi style training for Panja. But of course, then that's the beginning, and then you go on from there, like I said.
And what are the drills if you're doing freehand to increase the strength of your forearms?
Well, push-ups are always the best. Push-ups, burpees, and form is very important to make sure that it's coming on that part of the body, the upper part of the body, that is necessary for strength, and you're not cheating by putting your back up. So it's very important that form is correct. So those are the things that you need to really watch out for. But it is overall strength, because you have to remember that though it seems like only your upper body and your shoulder and your forearm and wrist is involved, it's actually your whole body,
absolutely,
which is involved in the fight. So it's technique. It's also mental. Sport is a mental game. So it only seems very simple, but it is a very complex sport still, where your mental your strategy, and your strength, your technique, everything plays a part in being able to take the other opponent down.
And I also feel breathing is also important. The way you breathe in and breathe out when you're actually.
Absolutely. There's somebody I train with called Sorab. He runs a company called SoFit, and I've been doing challenges with him, and I've been training with him throughout this lockdown period and before that as well. And they are now concentrating on breathing a lot. And breathing, you realize, is such an important part of workout. And I'm glad you brought that up. That, of course, breathing from your nose and being able to control your breathing and getting used to breathing from your nose and controlling that. And that is what really, once you are able to control that, that is what is able to increase your stamina and everything. So that's, I'm glad you brought that up. Breathing is a very, very important part. Like, they taught in yoga as well, from the ancient scriptures, they teach you a lot about breathing. And of course, Baba Ramdev, taught us all about the breathing as well. That was, one of his focus points is breathing.
So, do we have any lot of outdoor exercises also, like running and all that, when you're actually a Panja specialist?
Well, I'm sorry, I missed that. Did you say outdoor exercises?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of running happens because of the breathing
Yeah,
bit.
of course, running for stamina, but also a lot of the guys, and you'll see it on our page, Pro Panja League, is they'll hang a rope from a tree and they'll do rope climbing, which
Oh,
is
that's the toughest. That's the
you know,
toughest.
which is it's a very basic, but it's a great exercise for upper body strength. It involves the whole upper body, and you need to be very strong to be able to pull yourself up. But that's a very a great exercise to be able to pull yourself up. Use your fingers, wrists, forearms, everything, your whole body, because you're lifting your whole body weight. And I would call it a body weight exercise. And it's something we used to do as kids as well.
Yes.
So it's a really great way of creating strength for Panja as well.
Absolutely. And, without taking help from your legs, just your
Yeah,
hand.
absolutely. Because not many people realize, who haven't seen too many arm wrestling fights or Panja, that athletes, they are allowed to use their legs as to put pressure on one of the legs of the arm wrestling table, to kind of create leverage on their hands.
Yeah.
So it's very important to have a good leg strength as well. So that's why I say it's not just about developing the upper body, but overall body strength as well.
So this year when you launched in January the Pro Panja
Feb,
League,
Feb 29.
I beg your pardon, in February. So what exactly? How many matches happened? What are the plans? I mean, do you plan to get lot of? How do you plan to get the athletes? You have franchisee thing happening. It's an IPL style kind of a thing. Are you planning?
Well,
What
well
exactly?
I'll just tell you, we've decided to do it a little differently, based on what has worked and not worked for some other people, and how we feel it should be developed. We
Yeah.
we wanted to start it as a tournament style, and which is what we've done. The first soft launch of the tournament was a ranking tournament, where we want to introduce the people to these players, and so people know who is the star of that weight category. We had 9 weight categories. We had 6 men's, 2 women's, and 1 specially able category. And I have to say, this is the only tournament and league which includes specially able athletes within the main league itself. So with the first tournament, people have understood where these athletes rank. And going forward, it's going to be, our first edition is going to be the first year we're going to promote this as a national tournament, where people are going to get behind people from their states. We had 15 states take part in our first tournament, and we had about 200 athletes. Now in
Wow.
the main edition, now going forward, we expect about 500 athletes and every state to be covered. We want people to get to know these athletes, which is what we're doing, which is how we're promoting them as well. And then from the second year onwards, we will move to a league format where the people who are buying the teams also know a little about the players. Otherwise, you start a new sport and people don't know, what is a player capable of, what's his high point. Sometimes, you want to have a player who might not be the first guy, he may be the second seed, but he's a very entertaining player, and he's guys that people would want to watch. So there are different reasons why somebody would want to pick up a certain player. So we want people to get to know these players, both male and female, in the first year through the national tournament. Which states are the strong states, which players are the strong players, and the players also have that year to improve their rankings. Now there's a ranking system in place, which is a top four ranking for every weight category, for the 9 weight categories. But going forward, now they have an opportunity that before the auction starts, they have that opportunity, to build their ranking higher or not. And the motto of our league is "Aapki Kismat, Aapke Haath," which really is for the athletes. It means, your future is in your hands. We are putting this together, but it really is in your hands, and we keep telling them that. So the first year, is a platform for the athletes to show what they have to make the game popular, and then we move it to the league franchise. And I feel sometimes that's an issue with some leagues, which have probably not taken off the way they should have. Is they've gone into the league format a little too soon, because we have to remember it's culturally and technically not a team sport, right? It is an individual sport. It is supposed to be between two people on one table. But to
Okay.
get this into a league format, you have to first get people into the sport, into the rules, into the players, and then get them into the league format.
So when are the franchises going to be there? I mean,
Well, our plans, of course, we had to move them back because of Corona. We already had some things set up, and we were going to be doing our first edition in July. Of course, we had to move them back. So we will be doing our first edition towards the end of the year, and then we will be starting the league format in 2021, which is the next year, which is very close. It's not that far around the corner as well. So that's when we're going to be starting the league format.
I mean, how many teams would be there? How many
We
franchises?
want we're planning on starting. We're going to be starting with 6 teams,
Wow.
and then after a year or two, we'll be moving to 8. But that's where we'll be stopping for now. But we are going to be launching with 6 teams.
But it's quite challenging. This kind of we're talking about sanitizing your hands all the time, and then you're doing this. So will there be any protective gear also when you? Because we have to live with Corona, right? We have to
Yeah, absolutely.
stay with we have to be careful, you have to be cautious. So what are the precautions you have to take when you actually start off next week? Because this is not going to go that easy.
No, it's not. So of course, we have been putting a lot of these things thought into them, and it is a contact sport, right? It's not tennis where you're not next to the other person. It is a contact sport, but fortunately, there have been other sports which have started. Like mixed martial arts. The UFC has been going on for a couple of months during Corona, and they have kind of shown the way of how you can have contact sports even during the times of Corona. So we do plan when we start, if there isn't a vaccine out by that time, or even if there is, we do plan on creating a bubble with the players, the athletes, and everybody who is within that ecosystem, making sure everybody is tested. Apart from even when they are on the table, they are wearing masks. Of course, they cannot wear gloves, because you can't have that be a part of the, if gloves are slipping, or if there's, because they do put powder on their hands as well. So powder on gloves, will become more slippery. So we won't have them wearing gloves, but we will, depending on the situation of when we have our next edition, they will or will not be wearing masks. But everybody will be tested. It will be a bubble. Nobody will be allowed to come in and out. So we have learned those lessons from other sports which have started by now.
The one thing which is really good, which has happened in last few months, the hygiene level is gone up in the
Sorry,
country.
sorry, what is gone up?
The hygiene level is gone up in the.
Hygiene, yes, absolutely. The hygiene level has gone up, and people have started realizing that they need to follow rules. Which was not a high point in our country, following rules. So I think people have gotten used to following rules. So let's just hope they don't forget that soon. I hope that becomes a habit.
But I get to hear that the majority are not following. They are moving around as if nothing has happened in this world, which is the little careful, and that's why it's still spreading, because we are
Yeah.
not conscious. We have to be really really careful with this.
Yeah, it is a very tough time right now with it still spreading, but it's been around so long that people are starting to lose their fear. Whereas as now, it's actually a much riskier time where it's spreading so widely and easy. but people have lost that fear because a lot of people are asymptomatic, are being cured at home itself just with rest. So it's a time where people have to be a little extra careful as well. And I would say one should not be dropping their guard so easily.
Absolutely, rightly said. Tell me something. How is the corporate support behind this league? I mean, this is something really exciting for corporates also do such competitions. You know, this is the best way to. You don't have to be a professional to be in this kind of a situation. Panja is
Yeah,
something.
of course. Sorry. We were and still are. We're in talks. Our first edition, our first ranking tournament, was kind of made as a case study for everybody because it was the first time something like this was happening. Of how to go about it, and people loved it. So we're in talks with some pretty big sponsors. But as you know, the situation has changed a little, where,
Yes,
where companies are looking at it month per month. But the good thing about Panja is with what sponsors really love as well, is that it doesn't take a lot of space, and it's not as expensive a sport as a lot of other sports. It doesn't. You don't need to book a cricket stadium or a hockey stadium for it.
yeah.
And it is a sport which everybody understands. It's family friendly. So we are in talks, of course, with a lot of sponsors who are very, very interested in the fact that it's an aggressive sport, but not violent. What everybody is kind of holding off right now for is the fact of when it will be allowed, because as of now there's no date one can put until the government allows it. First of all, the government needs to allow sports, and then contact sports, and then we can actually put a date down that this is when we're doing it. But we are very hopeful that that's going to happen soon, and we are in talks with some very big high level sponsor names who will hopefully join us on this journey.
Oh, wonderful. I hope it comes true and it actually happens. But tell me something. Are you getting support from few of your Bollywood friends also who would be interested to come and back this project with you?
Well, I'll be very frank with you. My view on that is not what the typical view in Indian sports has been. Is you put an actor as the face of a team, or as a face. As of now, what we wanted to do is, because I feel that sometimes shifts the focus from the athletes.
Of course
You
it
know,
does.
so what we want to do is we want to keep the focus on the athletes. We are flirting with having a face, an ambassador for the whole league, but we don't want to go down that path of having a face for each and every team. And I think the Kabaddi League has kind of shown the way there, that it's not necessary. They do, of course, have one or two names, but they have shown that the focus, if it remains on the athletes, you can build names, and you can make sure that people are watching the sport for the athletes themselves, and you don't necessarily need Bollywood names to be at the forefront. We will, of course, be involving a lot, inviting a lot of friends to come and watch the fights, like it happens, of course, in the UFC, where you have a lot of big stars in the front rows. But I'm going to take it a little easy as far as pushing the league with Bollywood names goes.
That's a lovely thought. Is putting the entire focus on the sport, which is so important. And you don't have to play at that level, highest level, to become what you are in life. It's also the love for the sport. Even I tried my hand playing cricket, but I'm not a successful cricketer today. But what the values it teaches you, and you're just carrying forward that value, and it's a great initiative and something out of the box, which is
Yeah.
which when I heard about what you're doing, what really attracted me towards your project, your pro Panja League is the fact that you're doing something out of the box, which is very important. Everyone runs after cricket, everyone runs after other sport, but sport which can really give you that kind of stamina, which shows that you have the strength to fight, and Panja is the sport for it.
Correct. I
Yeah,
just want to say also that we do want to create. I think one of the banes of Indian sports has been politics. As we've seen, and a lot of times, as you've seen, even the Premier League went through a whole upheaval and a redoing, because certain elements had crept in, and the Supreme Court had to step in as well to clean things around. Sometimes, and we do want to create, and the Boxing Federation had an issue for a couple of years. So, we do want to create a promotion which is politics free, which does not have politics, which really is, the athletes are the focus. The athletes have to have, and they do. One thing I can really say is the athletes, they have realized that they do have someone in me who is a champion of the sport, who they can trust. And when I say something, I mean it. I've always believed in promise less, deliver more. And they have seen that I am somebody who does that, and I am somebody who doesn't, fool around with all the other things. And if they have the talent, they have the conviction that they will, their destiny is in their hands, which is again why aapke kismat aapke haath, that it is up to them what they do on the table. I will not allow any hanky panky, happening around this league. It is a sport it is a league which is all about integrity. It's about character. It's about entertainment. Every sport sometimes, and I don't want to use this word, but I will, has leeches around it. It has leeches, which is around the periphery. They're looking for ways of how to, do what they want to do in that sport, and to, push the results, and this and this and that. And I think that is the bane of good sports athletes, and we need to ensure that such people are not allowed inside the sport. And I want to say this one line from this sports movie, Sala Khadoos. I don't know if you've seen that film. It's a R. Madhavan film, which is, about boxing. He plays this coach. Agar Indian sports में से politics निकाल दो तो हर गली में आपको champion मिलेगा. And
Absolutely.
I really want to say that our Indian sports stars are second to none. We just need to ensure that politics is taken out of the sport. And I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Kiran Rijiju for the way he has been taking Indian sports ahead, and the way he is methodically taking it ahead, building it from the roots up. And he's given a vision and hope to Indian athletes, and even Mr. Rathore, who was there before him. There's this hope for Indian athletes. They're getting support. They're getting training facilities, and it is going to be a long path ahead. But there is light at the end of the tunnel now, where we have started getting medals. We see a certain grittiness in our athletes right now in a lot of sports. Especially the boxing, shooting. And I have to say this: I am involved again we have picked up me and two friends, Sujay, and we've picked up the rights for a sports star called Saurabh Chaudhary, who's one of the brightest shooting athletes out there. He's won about 10, 15 goals in the last 2 years. He's an Asian Games gold champion at the age of 16. He's
Wow.
a bright prospect, and he's been winning a lot of doubles gold, shooting gold with Banu Bhakar now. So we picked up his film rights, and we will be working on that as well. So as you can see, one is involved in every sphere of the ecosystem in sports. But coming back to Pro Panja League, I do want to, within the next couple of years, also promote the sport through a film as well.
Wow.
Not over the top, but having the same, inspiration, because I think Over the Top really pushed arm wrestling in both America and internationally as well, because it was such a big international hit.
No, I mean, and who will be the lead actor in that?
Well, let's see. We're just going to start writing the script. I am working on another film right now. We have signed with the studio. We have a company, Swen Entertainment, which does films and short films and ads. So we have produced one film before, and in that film, Saeed Ande Galat Bande, we did put a couple of scenes of Panja in it. So some hilarious scenes. So that love has always been there. But we are in the casting stage right now of a film that we're doing. It's not a sports film; it's another film. So we have signed with the studio, and we are co-producing it, and I'm going to be directing it. But one of the next films is going to be a sports film. Like I said, we've taken the rights of Saurabh Chaudhary, the shooter, and we are going to also be planning a film on arm wrestling as well.
Look forward to seeing that, happening and hitting the whatever platform is available, OTT, or it's shown on theaters. But thanks a lot for coming on SK Live. It was such a pleasure having you,
Thank you.
and you spoke so passionately and right from bottom of your heart. It was really, really a pleasure having you. Thanks a lot, and I
Thank you.
hope, yeah, and I hope
So
your really takes off like a plane takes off from the you know.
thank you so much, Indranil. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and having this opportunity of coming on the Sports Data Alive with you. And I have to say, I do promise you, we are going to come and train you for however long you want, a couple of days or weeks, and to ensure that you get your first Panja match with whoever you choose. You can choose your opponent. It can be a fellow journalist or somebody else.
I'm
You know,
I'm I'm little strong actually, so
like I
no,
said, you can choose your opponent. We're going to match you up with somebody, and we're going to train you for Panja, and we're going to make sure that that match happens live.
absolutely. Thanks a lot. On that note, stay safe, stay happy, and stay in a way that you can promote Pro Panja League and take it to our higher platform. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
sir, for coming
Thank
on
you.
SK Live. Thank
Thank you
you,
so
sir.
much.
Good
Take
day.
care.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.